Hi, I'm Rashad Phillips, and I'm excited to bring to you today March Madness. Yes, we're still going. It's been a fantastic tournament, but I want to touch on a few things. The Sweet 16 was as excited as it anticipated to be. Great shots, great players, great coaching. I mean, kids diving on the floor, just playing every possession like it was their last. Was one game that really stood out to me that I was really anticipating, and that was the Michigan versus Florida State game. Let's start there. Now, when you talk about Michigan, this is a team that I didn't really think would have that much success, even though in my bracket I had them going far. I was skeptical every time I wrote Michigan in the bracket because obviously the injury to Livers, and I just felt like the offense would be stagnated. I didn't know if Mike Smith was ready to take those next step to lead that unit, and he's done a tremendous job of leading Michigan over that win against Florida State. When you look at the Seminoles, Coach Hamilton and this group have put a terrific group of players together, but what Florida State lacked this entire season was a dynamic offensive player. Yes, Scotty Barnes is really good. He's going to be a fantastic pro. Raquan Gray is really good as well. They still just lacked a dynamic offensive player. And when you're in March Madness, in order to go far, you're going to have at least one dynamic offensive player. And I just felt like the Florida State Seminoles didn't have that. Now let's talk about the Elite Eight, because these games, Gonzaga versus USC, that was a big one. You had Michigan versus UCLA. We're going to dive deeper into UCLA in a minute. You had Baylor and Arkansas, and obviously Oregon State and Houston. But let's start with this Baylor, this Baylor team against Arkansas. Arkansas, for me, was a team that kind of overachieved. Coach Eric has done a terrific job with those kids, but they kind of lacked that dynamic offensive player that I talked about. Obviously, Moses Moody is a terrific jump shooter, but his inability to get his own shot off the wiggle, I knew would be tough for Arkansas. And Baylor was just too deep with Mitchell and company, and just the depth that they had. I just knew that Arkansas wouldn't stand a chance against Baylor. Oregon State and Houston. Houston has been not for me a surprise team, but I think for the country to really recognize what they've been able to do. This is a tough team, but how they was able to beat Syracuse was extremely impressive, because that Syracuse zone is really hard to face if you don't really know what you're doing, especially as a guard. The holes in that defense are very minimum. They allow you to make the pass right at the free throw line extension, and they force the bigs to make decisions. That's how Syracuse beat you. But Houston did a terrific job of making that pass, and then making the pass to the big in the dunk spot a lot of times throughout that game. And Syracuse just lacked their ability to really force the turnovers that make them successful. Gonzaga, USC, right? You got the Mobley brothers. You got the depth of the Zags, and Drew Timme has been terrific. I can't say enough about this kid. His skill set, his ability to get his own shot against length and athleticism. A lot of people try to say that he would struggle against athletic bigs, and for me, I knew he wouldn't, because skill conquers all, and Drew Timme is full of skill. So he's able to score over the left shoulder, score over the right shoulder. He does a great job of absorbing contact and finishing through the defense. He's a terrific passer, and the Zags, with their depth, just do a terrific job of moving, having active cutters. And Timme dropped a few dimes, and during the game, you can see him picking them up off the floor, just showing his excitement for that. So that was a huge win for the Zags. But wow, we got to talk about this, man. UCLA. Wow. I got to give you guys your flowers, UCLA. I mean, the way you guys have played from the play-in game all the way to advancing to the Final Four against Michigan, it's been nothing short of amazing, because a lot of people don't know this about UCLA, that they lost their best player earlier in the season in Chris Smith. I mean, they had some injuries. Coach Cronin has done a terrific job of just rallying these kids, injecting them with positivity, and just staying the course. You can tell that the Bruins are a well-coached team. They believe in what their coach is telling them. They execute well, and that was the determining factor in their victory over Michigan. I want to talk about one player in particular that a lot of people aren't talking about. Obviously, Juzang is playing like Johnny's rolling. He's playing like an NBA player, like transferred to UCLA after leaving Kentucky. I mean, this kid is terrific. He lit Michigan up. He's an NBA scorer. I just believe that he has a bright future in the way he goes about his craft. But I want to talk about a player that nobody really gives credit because he does it quietly. He just does his job. It may not show up loud in the box score, but Tiger Campbell has been terrific for the UCLA Bruins. This kid has answered the bell each game. Every matchup, to me, he wins his matchups. He's come up with big play after big play. He's made big shot after big shot when his team needs him to. He's made the right pass. He's made the right play. His leadership has been infectious. I just want to say that without Tiger Campbell, this UCLA team would be struggling. Like, this kid doesn't, when you look at the film, it's not going to pop out at you on film. He's not the one celebrating and jumping up and down. Like, this kid just comes to work, gets it done, impacts the game, and you can mark a W for the UCLA Bruins. So I wanted to give you your flowers, Tiger Campbell, because you've been terrific. Let's go to the Final Four, man. Let's talk about it. Like, how we're looking here. We got Gonzaga versus UCLA. We got Baylor versus Houston. I mean, these are some intriguing games. So I want to kind of break them down for you. Let's start with Gonzaga versus UCLA. What is it going to take for UCLA to beat Gonzaga? Here's what I think. I think UCLA is going to have to get stops, and they've been doing this all tournament. Like, UCLA has done a terrific job in two things: getting stops when they need to, and scoring out of timeouts. Like, I've been watching UCLA, and pay attention to this now. When UCLA comes out of a TV timeout or just a regular timeout and they have the ball, they usually get a bucket. And that's huge as far as building momentum in March. They're going to have to continue that trend against Gonzaga. But getting stops when needed against a deep Gonzaga team is what's going to have to take place. If not, the Zags will run away with this one. They have a lot of speed. They got some dynamic players on the offensive side of the ball. We spoke about Drew Timme again, what he brings to the table. I believe Drew is the straw that stirs the drink for Gonzaga. A lot of people think it's Suggs. Suggs is terrific. He's going to be a top 5 draft pick. But I'm telling you that Drew Timme is the Christian Laettner of the Gonzaga Zags. He is the guy that brings it all together. Yes, remember those Duke teams. They had fantastic Grant Hill and Bobby Hurley and all the other guys, but Christian Laettner was the guy. That's what Drew Timme is for Gonzaga. I'm going to go Gonzaga here. I think they win this game. UCLA will bring a fight. They will play hard. They're going to dive on the floor. They're going to give it everything they have. But I got to stick with my pick before March Madness started. I picked Gonzaga to win it all. Not going to change here. Let's move over. Let's talk about the other game, Baylor and Houston. Man, this is going to be a barn burner here. Houston is a team that they may be the toughest team in the entire tournament, like just full of just tough guys. And I want to talk about Dejan Jeru. I really love this kid. To me, he's an NBA player. Yes, he doesn't shoot the ball well, but he does everything else. Like the intangibles are off the chart. His magnetism, his leadership. He's a fantastic defender. Like this kid reminds me a lot of Eamon Shumpert. When Shumpert was at Syracuse, like he's gonna do what's necessary for his team to win. He's vocal. He makes the right play. This is why if I'm an NBA team, like I'm bringing this kid to camp and I'm allowing him to make my team, because you need guys with that type of magnetism on your team. And Dejan Jeru is that type of kid. Love him. I don't think Houston is going to win against Baylor. I don't think they win this game. I picked Baylor to play Gonzaga in the national championship. I'm not going to change now. But Coach Sampson has done a terrific job over there with his coaching and just rallying those kids up. You know, his assistant coaches, you know, Hollis Price, who was one of the greater guards at Oklahoma. I remember watching him and his tenure as a player and seeing him on the bench and being that point guard whisperer to the team. You can see that exuding on the court with Houston. But let's talk about Baylor and why I believe they're going to win. Baylor, just the guard play for me, again, in order to go far in March, you have to have guards. And with Mitchell and with Butler and company, like these guys are just so dynamic. Mitchell, I believe, is a first-round pick. Like this kid is tenacious on the defensive side of the ball. He takes on the assignments, and then he's fantastic offensively. He can get his own shot. He's powerful. He's a great facilitator. Like I just believe an NBA team would get a gem in drafting this kid, because he's just a winner and he just does anything that's needed for his team to win, especially on the defensive side of the ball. He reminds me a lot of Marcus Smart on the defensive side of the ball. Like he's that tenacious. So I'm gonna go with Baylor and Gonzaga in the national championship. Now, who do I have winning that? I really believe Gonzaga wins the national title, and Drew Timme will be the most outstanding player, a la Christian Laettner. I just believe that this team just has the it right now. Like they're just playing at a high level. This Gonzaga team reminds me a lot of the 81 Isaiah Thomas-led Indiana Hoosiers team. If you go back to that, Isaiah Thomas Indiana team was dominant on both sides of the ball. They won every game by double digits. Isaiah Thomas was the MVP. And this Gonzaga team reminds me a lot of that Hoosiers team. I take them over Baylor by just a little, but I don't know if I feel too confident in saying that. But I got Gonzaga winning the national title, Drew Timme being the most outstanding player, and having one of the most memorable March Madness performances that we've ever seen. I'm Rashad Phillips. I'm glad to bring to you March Madness, and that's it for me. I'm signing off. Talk soon.